Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about the big first day of testimony in the Jean Carroll trial, the centerpiece of which was the not yet finished direct testimony of Jean Carroll herself. So the jury was sworn. We heard opening statements, and Trump's team got up and just said this is 100% sham, as they kind of have to. There's going to be different witnesses, and their theory has to be they've made it all up to go after someone for political reasons, etc. The Trump lawyer drew a couple objections, which is really rare in an opening. You normally let a lawyer go, but he was referring to things. This is going to be a common theme here. He's going to be pushing on the judge, and the judge is brooking no nonsense by averting to things that they're not supposed to be part of the trial. So, for example, the judge has held that the dress that she was wearing, and which we don't know exactly, but I'm surmising, didn't have any solid DNA evidence remaining, is irrelevant and can't be spoken about. So, will the Trump lawyer try to make little asides like, why didn't they test the dress, etc. And that's a whole side drama here in which the judge has been increasingly impatient with the Trump lawyer and with Trump. As I told you on a previous YouTube, he's saying, he's threatening him essentially with either obstruction or contempt based on the kinds of statements Trump himself has made. All right, but back to the trial. So an interesting decision. We have a very fine legal team representing Jean Carroll. So one of the things you'll learn by following the trial is sort of trial strategy. They start with a very bland witness. They could have gone with Jean Carroll and sort of upped the energy, fivefold all of a sudden. And I think they came to the conclusion, and order of proof, which is what order you put witnesses on, is a real sort of fine part of a trial lawyer's art. So they put on somebody from Bergdorf Goodman who just kind of set the physical scene, said doors were sometimes left open and people weren't there at after the sort of afternoon, which this is. But said very little and drew very little cross. But that now, with the jury settled in, Your Honor, we call Jean Carroll. So she gets up, and so she starts with, it's all, of course, as it needs to be and should be, very choreographed. So first there's a kind of general statement that is, meant to be memorable, and all the papers report about I'm here because I wrote something about Trump and he said it was false, and in fact he raped me and I want to get my life back, this sort of sympathetic encapsulated 20 seconds of what she's doing. And then they go into the story of the day. And this is the first time we've heard it in full, and they had to kind of finesse, or a big part of what happens on direct is you have to bring out the parts that you want the jury to hear from her rather than on cross-examination. Anyway, she testifies when she first meets him in the store. He's a man about town. She thinks that she's a gossip columnist. She thinks it's kind of fun. They engage in banter that is basically flirtatious. He talks about her help in getting in choosing some lingerie as a gift. They go up to a dressing room where it's not clear what's happening. This is definitely the part of the movie where you're saying, don't go in the dressing room, don't go in the dressing room, don't go in the dressing room. But she goes in the dressing room, and everything turns dark and monstrous immediately. They're in there for about 3 minutes, and he just immediately becomes a rapist, forces himself on her, actually rapes her, has, sexual intercourse with her, although again, all what she has to prove is just that there was unwanted touching of any kind. It could be a kiss, whatever, but the testimony is, he's all of a sudden a monster. I thought back to something that's going to be in the trial and going to be significant, which that the judges ruled in, which is the Access Hollywood tape. At the time when we heard it, it seemed, oh God, what a gross jerk. but it's now feels like kind of a description. He said, when you're famous, they let you grab their genitals. And so that's sort of that's the theory that, happens when the door closes. That's just consistent. They're alone now, the door's closed, and he just becomes this, terrible predator, assaults and rapes her and leaves. And it's, she fights him off. And there you have it. So she tells the basic story, and her advocates have to set out at the beginning how it begins with her being at first happy to meet him, etc., and then turns unbelievably dark sort of on a dime. Okay, so she's still on the stand, and after that basic story is told, they then move to essentially getting stuff out so that it's comes from her. This is a part of the trial lawyer's art. It's called taking the sting out. And so she gets questioned, why didn't you go to the police? And we're going to learn there's going to be a couple witnesses that she talked to at the time. One right at the time who said, go to the police. Another very shortly after who said, you can't, he's so powerful, etc. Those two will both testify. But in any event, that's going to be a big part of what Trump's defense team will say. She didn't go to the police. She doesn't, remember some of the details, etc. So she needs to give the jury a real explanation. Now, here is where I think, this it could really matter that it's 2023. Famously, 20, 30 years ago, trial lawyers, even believing women would say, oh God, a jury may not credit this after the initial kind of conduct, but if she prevails at trial, it's a sign of a kind of social progress where juries understand that somebody can flirt with what it turns out to be a predator, and that doesn't mean they're inviting a sexual assault, etc. So in that sense, it's a broader kind of social issue. But anyway, for her, she gets out that she didn't call the police, and why. And there's also then a series of, you thought, why are we talking about, times that she was assaulted at camp at age 12. Her second marriage was violent, and they go through that. And the reason is her claims for damages are unspecified, but she has presented the claim in asking for damages. She said since the rape, she's just been unable to have normal relationships. And so Trump's team is going to try to say, no, you were already traumatized by this, that, or the other, and that's the reason. So either they could just, hear that cold, the jury, on cross, or she could bring it out and give her own, version and explanation, because in a good cross-examination, and this cross-examination, since Trump's not going to testify, he has hardly any witnesses, is the most important part of the trial for him. They're going to come after her pretty aggressively. So she wants to, get out the stuff that could potentially prove damaging. So that's why at the latter part of the day, so just to, go through it again, a kind of a quick little introduction to her, then the day and the event itself, and then several points that are going to be, hopefully this softens the blow for cross-examination. And then I think they'll end on a positive note of, are you doing this case to get back at him for political reasons or whatever? And then she will again no, I'm doing it because he raped me and lied about me. In other words, they will return to sort of the first theme and reiterate where she basically wants the jury to wind up. And then it'll be time for cross. That'll be a pretty dramatic time, as I suggested, ought to be tomorrow. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.